We are here to bring you everything and anything surrounding Porsche. I'm Mike.
I'm Aaron.
And this is P-Car Talk.
Welcome to another episode of P-Car Talk. I'm Mike.
And I'm Aaron.
And we have a special guest coming on the second half of the show, Erik Skirmants from Porsche Motorsports, tongue-tied, Porsche Motorsports North America. He is the modern and historic workshop manager. I'm going to let him tell you exactly what they all do there, but that's a big deal. Another member from the Porsche executive staff essentially joining us, and he's in the motorsport division. If you listen to any of the other ones, we had Ray Schaefer on, so we really appreciate Porsche allowing us to interview some of these folks and bring you some inside information and bring to light of what's going on within the workshop and within the confines of the actual place. But let's go ahead and do an HSR recap. That's what this section's going to be, and then we'll take a break, and then we'll go into that. But before we do that, we have a couple things to cover. Number one, Suncoast Porsche Parts is this month's giveaway. Yep. I want to bring it up now because when you listen to this, it's going to be Thanksgiving. So happy Turkey Day as you're listening. So if you need to go ahead and get away from everybody, we get that with your family so you don't kill anybody. Put your headphones in, go disappear, do your thing. Obviously some families are closer than others. That's true. And if you need to go ahead and watch some video, we have tons of Porsche content. So visit us. Visit us on our YouTube channel. And go disappear for a little bit while you're at the in-laws. If you're stuck there, go into the back bedroom or something and
share with everybody. Just turn it on the main TV.
Yeah, just shout. Yeah, scare them all out of there. But anyways, go to their website because they are having a monster Black Friday sale, and they wanted us to go ahead and mention that to you guys. They're giving away, not giving away. I mean, I think there's. Essentially, they're giving stuff away. I should say that because at the prices they're going to be doing, I don't want to spoil anything, but definitely go visit their website. That's suncoastporscheparts.com. And they have tons and tons of stuff. And a lot of it's limited. So, they have a certain amount of items. They have Porsche luggage that they're going to be selling at a heavy, heavy discount. It's really great stuff. And they only have so much of that stuff. So once it's sold, it's sold. So again, it's first come, first served. Definitely check them out. But they went ahead and donated for the club member giveaway this month, 911 GT3 RS Wysock package, the big, expensive, $500+ model that you see when you go to a Porsche dealership and it's sitting there and you're like, wow, that looks really expensive. Yeah, we've got one of those to give away to our club members. All you got to do is go to pcartalk.com, under PCAR Club, become a member. There's 3 levels. I won't bore you with it, but we really do appreciate everybody that's become a member. And without further ado, we have some recent members. We'd like to thank everyone that is a recent member. We kind of did, like Aaron mentioned, we did a thank you in August for some of the first initial members. And we like to do this for everybody who does take time and who is an enthusiast. And a lot of these people on this list have actually already won something from us, which is great. So without further ado, Steve A., Aaron L., Vivek P., Chris H., Sean M., Chris B., Brad L., Ian R., Mike R., Nicholas G., Costas P., Joe W., David C., Brian M., Steve J., Merrick D., Michael T., Andy B., Ron E., Mitch B., Sharon C., we have a female, nice, Damian P., Brandon J., Ethan C., David M., George L., and Andy G. Thank you guys so much for signing up as a PCAR Club member. You will not be sorry. There's going to be a club drive in the spring, club members only, so that's coming. You need to be a club member to be able to attend. More to follow, obviously, in the coming months with that. We hope to announce the actual location in January.
That's the plan.
And then have the website open for people to sign up that want to go. We're shooting for sometime in April for this drive. It's going to be a mountain drive. It's going to be a weekend thing. It's going to be hanging out. Everybody's going to be enjoying themselves. Cocktails, mullets, whatever.
The standard.
Yeah, what we normally do, right? But it's going to be great. So we're going to do that. And we want to thank everybody once again, thank you guys so much. Everybody who's joined and everybody who's committed to that cause and, wants to be a part of something bigger and, greater. And we're one of the few clubs that give a ton back. And I'm not just saying that, we really do.
We do, yeah.
I mean, we went over the numbers and not even kidding. We were like, how does this happen? We have a good amount of members, but there's like no revenue because we're just giving it all back out. So, and that's legitimate. I'm not just saying that. I mean,
true.
but I mean, it should be that way. That's what's the whole purpose of this. It's not for us to get rich on it. It's for to give you guys back and create a community around it.
And,
so
yeah, I was gonna say that list is the worldwide list too. That's like New Zealand, Australia.
Yeah, exactly.
All around,
yeah, England.
Yeah.
Great point, Aaron. So let's talk about HSR real fast, and then we'll swing into a break, and then we'll bring Erik on the show, obviously. Yep. So HSR, what is HSR? Historic Sports Car Racing, right? So that was in Daytona this year. It's there every year, excuse me. It was a 24-hour race. We were there for 3.5 days.
Something like that. It was a lot of days.
Yeah, it was a long time. But it was nice. We camped out while I was there. We'll get into that because we have some funny stories about that as well. But the race itself, Derek Bell, Rod Emery, all those guys were racing with Gunner Racing.
Yep.
Allegra Motorsports was there. Carlos Scooter and his team. We got to hang out with them in the paddock.
Really cool.
It was really, really cool. Got to climb in the cars, look at the cars. Everybody there. There's a lot of privateer teams running there. It really is. I know it's all kind of cars, but I do say this to Porsche people. It's predominantly a Porsche event.
Yeah, I would say it's very 80-90% Porsche.
Yeah. And it's not, they don't macrame the event to be that way. Mm-mm. It just turned out that way because obviously Porsches are still on the road. They're still good race cars. A lot of them are qualified to race in these classes. So there's a lot of qualification requirements. And a lot of these are like race cars anyways.
Yeah, I was gonna. I mean, I don't know if you know, and I don't put you on the spot, and I don't know. I don't claim to know everything about HSR. But are they required to have a Daytona history on them to be on track?
I don't think so.
Okay, I just wondered.
No, but there, and honestly, I don't know if it has to even have race provenance. I'm not saying that any car can get in. Mm-hmm. I think there's qualifications and
I know there's a screening process.
Exactly. So I think there's a vetting process. So let's just say, I don't know, we'll make something up. There's a lot of 914s for whatever reason. Well, then they'll probably take all the ones that have race provenance and whatever's left over at that point, they'll give them okay, you're on a waiting list. If some of these cars don't show, we'll give you a shout type of deal.
Because I remember Carlos talking about the Le Mans historics. I know that's different, but that they have to have a Le Mans background and that type of thing. So I wasn't sure. That's what sparked the
question. I think because Le Mans is Le Mans, and I think I think it's that. And I'm not discrediting HSR by any means, but I think it's one of those things too where, believe it or not, HSR as a whole has been around for a long time, but they're still continuing to grow. It's a long grow. This was a very, very big event. I think there was 189 cars in total at this event. And there's all types of cars that meet different types of qualifications if you go there. And if you've seen any of our footage, if you haven't, go to our YouTube channel and see it. I mean, there's cars that are 2 seasons out of GTLM circuit racing that are there racing as well. So it's not, if you're picturing this and you're listening right now and you haven't seen any of the video, it's not only 80s and 90s and 70s cars. There's a good mix, but they put them in classes too. So it's a really sneaky way to see a lot of special things in one place and really see decades upon decades of different vehicles. There's, in the U.S., obviously I don't want to talk, Goodwood is a great place to see a huge demographic of cars. But I want to say U.S.-wise, I would say it's probably one of the few places you can see different makes and models, race cars, from anywhere from something from the 60s all the way up to 2018. Yeah. I don't know where else you can do that at and watch them in track action, not just a static display. So that's why it's one of my favorite events. Sebring, they host that as well. That's a great one. They're doing that actually in December sometime. But I think the home run one is basically Daytona.
A lot of history there.
What are some of your takeaways? I know we saw a lot of cars. What were some really big ones that kind of stood out in your mind when we were there?
I think that the 964, the black and gold one that we saw kind of opened up. I haven't really seen any 964 race cars. Mm-hmm. That was kind of cool. I mean, obviously the 962.
Yeah, the low on brow car. Yeah.
Getting to see it apart together and running. Sure.
And they were running it, guys. It had a fresh paint job on it, and they cooked through the paint on it. That's how hot the turbos were getting. So
looked like marshmallow.
Yeah,
burnt marshmallow.
So they use them.
Yeah,
and the car podiumed.
Flame
so,
on too.
I being a Porsche guy, obviously there was a lot of Porsches there, but I think something it really stood out in my mind where there was 2 Gullwing Mercedes racing there, and that is something I've never seen, and we may never see again, because these are people that come to this event. It's international. Yeah. People are coming from all over the world. They're shipping their cars for this one event, and we may never see those cars race again. Like you and I, maybe they'll race somewhere else in the world. But I've been to that race before, and I've never seen those cars.
I think I don't know if I saw something that has to be one of those two cars in Monterey. Right, it was one of the historic things they do.
Yeah.
For Pebble, but I didn't see two.
That really lazy cruise they do.
Well, no, this was on racetrack.
Okay.
This was on this is in Laguna.
At Laguna.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
I only saw one of them, but yeah, these cars are.
Oh, you mean like the car week where they all go out to the track and they go play a little bit?
There's they had that.
Okay.
Their Rolex historic or whatever.
Yeah.
But besides that, I mean, these things came from Germany. That's really cool. And
an SL race car.
Yeah, it's full out.
Most of these, like we talked about, are laying in the sun on Pebble Beach, basically, with white glove treatment. I mean, these guys had the full race treatment, the plexi windows. Yeah. They looked the business. They looked tough, and that's hard to do. Obviously, you don't see a lot of those, and I think that was a rare treat. Even though obviously we're Porsche people, we're car people too. It's not like, oh, I can't look at that. That's a Gullwing. I'm a Porsche guy. It's like, no, you're just stupid. Those are awesome. Like how tough those look. That was, I think, one of my bigger highlights, seeing those. But needless to say, it's an outstanding event. Should really help support the event. If you can make it to the event next year, you should definitely try it. This is the biggest amount of cars they ever had at this event.
Yeah, so it's probably going to get bigger next year. I mean, the other thing too is it's cost versus access. Mm-hmm. It's never going to be any cheaper for you to get that close. I mean, we didn't do anything special this time.
Yeah,
and it was in the pits all the time.
Yeah, good point. We camped out with $30 camping pass, and then we bought a 4-day pass for the weekend. I think each of us were all in at $100.
Yeah.
That's dirt cheap to get that kind of access. It really is. You just have to go and show up and be there. Now, talking about the camping, there was a front that came in. And those of you that don't know, I don't have to go ahead and describe it. It's odd, even though it's Florida. Daytona is just one of these places where it seems like where it's located in the state of Florida. If there's storms come across Florida, if there's a front coming down, it always seems to come across Daytona. It sweeps across that Gulf line. So we just happened to be there while there was a cold front coming in, which is cold for Florida. I mean, it was 45 that one night. We were sleeping outside. Guys that are used to a climate-controlled environment, hey, that's roughing it for us.
It's a little chilly.
Yeah, it was a little chilly. And it was windy, and it was foggy and rainy, and essentially looked like England out there.
I guess our Daytona is the equivalent of San Francisco and Cali.
Exactly.
It's just like chilly and foggy and everything.
Yeah, Aaron and I woke up, I think it was Sunday morning, or was it Saturday morning? It was one of those when we were really, really freezing, and you have to walk to the hardened facilities, obviously, to use the facilities. And I was like, I don't know, man, I'm just going to lay in this sleeping bag because I don't want to, you can see your breath in the tent, and it's just kind of one of those things. It's like, dude, I don't want to go anywhere.
It's not warm everywhere else, yeah.
And to be fair, like, because we keep claiming for memberships and needing money to travel, I think this is hilarious. We were talking to some other Porsche people, and they're like, oh, what are you guys doing? I think a couple other Porsche guys camped with us, but for the most part, they're like, you guys are camping?
Yeah, there was that.
And like the running joke is like, Porsche people don't camp.
Yeah.
So I think it's hilarious.
RV at minimum.
Exactly. So you have like an RV coming in or something, right? That's what you mean by camping? You're like, no. They're like, you're going to sleep on the floor, like outside?
Exactly.
See ya.
That's crazy.
Yeah, a close friend of ours, like as close as camping as I get is that hotel over there. That's camping for me. Like when I'm not at home, that's considered camping. But I thought that was interesting. Overall, great event. I should say you should really put it on your bucket list. One of the benefits now of this event, this is happening as well, and has nothing to do with the entries of cars because they had a high entry point anyways, but it also helped from a change of scenery. They had Bully Brigade there. If you don't know what Bully Brigade is, it's a split window bus show. So basically anything, 65 and under, 1965 is a split window bus. So they have an annual meeting. It used to be in Clearwater, Florida, where I used to go, but now it's actually at Daytona. It's at the track, and there was probably 150 split window buses there, and a lot of my friends were there, so we were able to, this is really interesting, They allowed him to do a parade lap on track, which essentially took forever, which is great, though, because we were able to basically scumbag our way into our friend Scooter's bus, who races for Erik Motorsports, and we were riding around on track with all these buses. So I'm not saying you'll get that, but at least you'll be able to see all the buses as well as race cars. So it really is a great weekend, and especially I can imagine we had that cold front, so that cold front rolled through the entire U.S. at that time. So I'm sure there was a lot of people north of us really regretting wherever they were living. At least you had inside, but you could have come down to Florida and got a little bit warmer than you were and saw some race cars and had a great weekend and yada, yada, yada. But you get the point. You really should put it on your bucket list, I would think. If you like vintage racing and racing in general.
Yeah, if you like racing in general, I think it's very, very, it's a cool event. And like you said, the amalgamation of cars, it's not just predominantly Porsche, but you'll get your Porsche fix in for sure.
Oh, 100%. I would say if I had to, and I don't have the facts and figures, so I'm totally pulling this out of my ass, but if out of 190 cars, of those 190 cars, I would say 120 of them were Porsches.
Yeah. Well, I mean, because that's just it last. You can go hardcore and come back and go on the trailer.
Yeah. So, and again, there was enough variety there if you're just a car person as well to see enough, but to feel like it still was mainly Porsche stuff, which is cool. And it wasn't just 911. Obviously, Aaron mentioned 962. There was a couple Kramer, well, more than a couple Kramer cars there.
Few.
So they had those as well. Then they had a couple 934R race cars as well. I mean, there was just every gamut you can think of, different kind of race cars, 944 race cars, 914 race cars. So it was a definitely great event. Highly recommend it. Any more takeaways before we close out on HSR?
No, I think that's it.
Okay. Awesome. So let's take a quick break. Let's bring Erik on the show. He's going to tell you all about Porsche Motorsports North America, what they are as a racing development unit, what they can provide, what Porsche is doing as far as racing goes, and how deep they go into it. Yep. So let's take a break, and then we'll bring it back.
All right.
Thank you guys listening to PCAR Talk so much. We appreciate you guys so much. I can't say that enough. Please go to pcartalk.com and check that out. We have a virtual membership on there. We are on there on Tuesdays meeting with you guys. Become a virtual member. We would solely appreciate that so much. Also check us out on YouTube. We release videos on Mondays, Thursdays, and Fridays. Help support the channel. Everything we're doing is trying to bring the community closer together. We definitely appreciate that. Also, when you go onto YouTube, if you could subscribe, maybe pass it along, make a comment, we really appreciate that. Again, circling back to pcartalk.com, there is a newsletter created on there. Please put your information in there. That way we can keep you up to date on anything that's coming forward and anything that we're going to be doing moving forward and all the exciting things that are coming out. And again, the virtual membership is on pcartalk.com. Now back to the show.
We are at Daytona International Motor Speedway. We're with Erik Skirmants, Porsche Motorsports North America. Thanks for joining us on our show. Kind of an impromptu talk about Porsche Motorsports in general while this HSR race is happening. But thanks for joining us on the show.
Oh, thank you. Really appreciate it. Big fan of all the work you've done, and it's been great to have the diversity of guests you've had, and it's actually been educational for me because as I've been in a Porsche family all my life, but taking over the role of workshop manager, now modern and historic workshop manager at Porsche Motorsport, there's so many stories and bits of information out there. It's fun to catch up on the community with the little bit of free time I got.
Nice. Thank you for the kind words. We're a big fan of what you guys do in general. So in this episode, we're going to discuss basically what Porsche Motorsports does and, what some of the nice things that they do and, some of your background as well, with your father and the 356 and the air-cooled stuff and, there's a lot of things that people don't know, including ourselves, and a lot of people at this track that they know of Porsche Motorsports, but they don't really know what Porsche Motorsports does. So, what are some of the services that Porsche Motorsports actually offers to, either, factory, privateer teams and things like that? What type of support, what do you guys end up doing there?
Well, there's different levels, but the most important thing to know about Porsche Motorsport is it's the sole source of the modern Porsche race cars, which also include the club sport models, which we can talk about a little bit. because it's made it practical and available to anyone to own a Porsche-built motorsports product. In the past, you could buy a Cup car if you were a Cup Series participant. You could buy a GT3R if you were a serious racer running an IMSA or now SRO. But the Club Sport has really opened up the opportunity for anyone involved in PCA or even a country club racetrack to buy a Porsche-built, Porsche-engineered, completely caged, halo seat, 6-point harness race car.
The full deal.
Yeah, the real deal.
Right, and they're ZZZ VIN cars. So that's the simplest way to talk about what we can service at Porsche Motorsport North America is we can service anything that came to America that was a purpose-built race car or had a ZZZ VIN. Example of that is the 959.
Okay.
So we have a discussion, a partnership with Classic now. We're one of the service options for 959s. And that dates back to the Andile days and the fact that Alvin and Dieter were at the original 959 training, and we have the original books and tools.
That's helpful.
Because of the heritage,
exactly. Right.
Because of the heritage of Porsche Motorsport North America, though, being a direct descendant through Alvin Springer of Andile, we also have a unique situation where we are the official and only North American service provider for the Cup cars, who are sealed, and the GT3Rs and the modern homologated cars have to be serviced by us and resealed by us.
Wow.
But we have this legacy, so we also serve as basically the Porsche Classic of motorsport.
Okay.
So we do 962s, we've done a whole lot of 996 RSRs, 993 GT2s.
Yeah.
We have that capability, and we have technicians. Eric Bloss on our team started with Alvin Springer when he was 19 years old.
That's insane.
You know, so you think back to when Andile won 100 straight IMSA races. You know, one of the key
hear
figures.
that again, 100 straight and races.
It's phenomenal. I mean, we could talk all day about the balance of performance and what it's done, positive and negative for motorsport. Now, if you win 3 races in a row, you walk away with 40 kilograms of lead. It's balanced it for other competitors, and certainly in my eyes, balance of performance came as a direct result of Porsche always dominating a formula.
I agree with that.
A new formula would come out, and within a few years, Porsche would dominate.
And then the rules are changed again.
Yep. And with balance of performance, they're negating that opportunity for a single manufacturer to dominate. It works out very well for us because we've been able to continue to improve the product. We've been able to continue to drop the operating costs. And that's one of the big things that's happened since I've been at Porsche Motorsport North America. After Dr. Daniel Armbruster, Daniel took over a little over 2 years ago. They implemented a fixed price program. So we knew exactly when a Cup or a GT3R engine or gearbox should come in for service.
Okay.
We implemented a program where if you come in on time, we effectively guarantee the work and the reliability.
That's outstanding.
So you come in, it's a fixed price, you know what it is coming in the door.
With racing, like you don't get any guarantees with racing normally.
Right. We don't use the W word.
Yeah.
Courtesy
I know.
reimbursement.
Yeah, there you go.
There's no warranty.
Yeah.
But basically,
whatever the language is, there's protection, right?
Exactly.
Which is unheard of.
Yes.
Yeah, so if you send something in on time within the window that we give you, say it's a 100-hour Cup engine, and we change any parts we didn't expect to have to change, we will send an incident report to Germany recommending that they look at the service interval of the part, but also giving the opportunity for the customer to be reimbursed for
We got a car about to start,
expense.
he said.
That's okay.
Right behind us. So guys, we don't want to hear complaints. Car's going to start. You get to deal with it. You get to hear some motorsports. We got good enough to get put in this garage, so we don't want to hear it.
Anytime I can hear a 911 of this vintage, I'll take it.
I know, right? Mike's going to push them out. They're going to be sweethearts for us.
That's okay.
So,
What a good guy.
but anyways, like back to the topic, like outstanding, right? Like obviously we won't use the W word, but like the fact that if you bring it in on time, that there's some protection behind that is unheard of.
Right. Yeah, and you know, looking at our overall business picture, and that's one of the things that I was trying to bring in, is I grew up in a Porsche family, but not at Porsche.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that sound. I'll take that all
You're
day.
welcome, everyone.
Yeah.
So you're listening to this on a Thursday or wherever that you're at, going to work. Let that wake you up.
But the fact that we have affordable hourly rates and we have a fixed price program on the modern car, you know, we are also working very hard now on our cost effectiveness and adding programs. We now have a fixed price for a 997 Cup. We have a fixed price for a 991.1 Cup. So we're taking the German required parts exchanges. We're adding a fixed price to the rebuild and a guarantee that that's what you're going to pay. And if you stay on our build schedule, say with a 997 Cup, it's every 50 hours we need to see the engine. Every 50 hours, you're going to pay 33.8 or 38.8, depending on which revision it is. And that's a complete rebuild, down to the bare case, everything cleaned up, brand new parts all the way throughout, dynoed and back out the door. Sealed if you'd like. And with a letter of authenticity that it was built by Porsche Motorsports.
That right there is worth its weight in gold right there. And you guys have that special dyno at PECLA too, right? Yeah. Because we did the tour when we were there, and it was outstanding. And you're like, oh, well, this came.
Right. And it's interesting because a guy like Alvin Springer comes in and kind of looks at it as overkill, because back in the day that you just were measuring power and you were doing sweeps. But in order for us to be basically certified to produce the exact same engines as PAG does in Flock, we have a dyno that needs to do step testing, needs to be very accurate, needs to be 100% correlated with Germany. And we also have the advantage of having the eddy current electric as well as the water brake. So we can spin over a 962 engine we just built to any RPM we want and only look at friction and oil pressure.
That's awesome.
So we don't have to worry about the timing, we don't have to worry about the ignition system. We can check the mechanical.
Make sure that's blueprinted properly.
Yep. So that it's a big advantage, and we are actually going to be doing service for others. I was talking with the fine folks at 901 shop. We're dominant in their market area.
Yeah.
We recognize there are certainly lots of shops out there that do a fantastic job.
Yeah.
And we'd like to work with them. We can dyno some of their work if they'd like, and do the engine side of their verification process.
That's cool.
And we've talked to Ray Schaefer and Jonathan Sieber about what if a classic customer got a rebuild, wanted to see their engine on the dyno.
Yeah.
And we're turning it, speaking of experiences, we're in the Experience Center out in LA, but we're turning it also into an experiential opportunity for the customers of a historic car.
Yeah.
They come in, we tear it down in front of them. Then they come back and we dyno it in front of them.
That's outstanding.
And we just get them involved to see what's going on.
Really
and frankly, when you're talking to a guy about, frankly, a six-figure rebuild on a classic, historic race car, it's a big discussion.
Help him understand. After.
But I've also
which is fitting because we're at a historic race event right now as well, and anybody who's listening owns a historic car that is doing that. You guys, it's incredible because when we visited you guys, I think the last time we were out there for Luftgekühlt, I think you guys had a GT1 and a 917 in there that you guys were refreshing that were customer-owned cars. And
it's a rebuild and restoration.
Where else in the world can that happen other than, and then of course, like you said, you want the authenticity because it's Porsche. It's not, and there's nothing wrong, and we're not saying this in an ill way against an independent, but to have that gold seal essentially and just to have it be like, this is how it was when we did it. Back when that car was new.
I mean, down to the color of the nylox that Andal used to use. We get special nylox because the color of the plastic and the nylock was a specific thing they did.
Yeah. And I think there was a 935 there that you discussed that was on an engine stand, and you were pointing out things, that were kind of, I don't want to say done incorrectly, but let's just put, like, it just was because it was at an independent, but that's not how the factory did it. And, and we get what people were trying to do just to get it out on the road, at that time.
Absolutely.
But, that customer who finally ends up getting that car, can come in and have it brought back properly.
And that's the expertise that we're carrying forward. Alvin Springer is still a consultant for us. Dieter Eisenhofer also comes in of Andal fame also. Chris Jensen, our dyno operator, has made it a passion to learn the old systems. We've got great partners like Brian Sakata, who does a lot of wiring with us. So we can, if needed, work with a modern ignition system and fuel injection system. But our specialty is we can put it back exactly the way it was. We can run the turbos the way they ran, the intercoolers. We can run the old Motronic Bosch 1.2, 1.4, 1.7 exactly the way they were, and we still know how to service them and make them reliable and repeatable.
And you also do repairs in the sense of, we talked a little bit, where did that one car crash, the RSR car that we talked about? Was that at Spa or something like that?
Bathurst.
Bathurst, and then they sent that car to you because it went tail in into like a barrier, and they're getting that fixed through you guys,
and
correct?
we can do retubs. Most of the time, we're just doing powertrain services for the modern customers, but we can do any chassis service as well. We won't do traditional race prep between weekends, but if somebody has a big project, wants us to do it, we'll quote it out. And I mean, one of the things we've realized that we have an advantage on is actually our shop rate. We've got some of the most experienced guys in all of Porsche Motorsport And certainly some of the most experienced people who touch Porsches, coming from their background, 20 and 30-year veterans, and we're at a shop rate that you can't get at your local Porsche dealer.
Yeah. And then another thing we talked about too, I thought it was interesting to bring up, and it was a big takeaway that I had when we visited you back in LA, that you discussed. You know, you're going to pay full rate at the track when you grenade a transmission because you don't have a backup transmission, which you guys do give advice. You say, hey, you should be carrying, you're a race team. Don't rely on the one that's in the car. And so where I'm going with this is that you guys offer race support.
Yes. So that's the other thing about Porsche Motorsports North America. Nick Lester heads up the customer team, and they go to all the tracks and do race support for SRO, IMSA, and any cup race, as well as Trophy West. So we're going to be at the track with a truck, with parts, with our technical team who can plug in, and they bring back all of the data. So I can look at it, and I know next year that I will expect 20 cup engines in because there's 20 current cup cars at over 80 hours. It's a 100-hour service.
Exactly.
So we can look at the prediction, and we're getting to the point we'll call the teams and say, look, we noticed that you're 2 or 3 races away from a rebuild. But and that's the customer support side of the operation is you don't race a Porsche, you race with Porsche. We have the biggest track presence. We have the highest degree of technical support and part support at
I'm
any
glad
event.
you said that too, because there's a lot of people that don't understand that facet of it, because there isn't very many brands that offer that kind of level of team support that can say, hey, okay, your weekend's not down because we're here, and we're going to help you out.
And it's not going to be cheap. It's not the resort you want to go to.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's not what it's about. It's about to keep you racing, right? Like you're out there to race. I mean, at the end of the day, when you end up in those situations, because whether it be like poor planning or whether it be something like you just didn't do, at least you're almost a fail-safe, even though you openly acknowledge, say, hey, this isn't your fail-safe. Like we shouldn't be your fail-safe, but we can help you.
Yeah, exactly. The support to keep everybody on track is multiple levels. And what's really great about PMNA is you can make a business case for its existence. If you look at some of the other customer support programs or some of the other programs, say at a IMSA GTD level, they're marketing based. Somebody in the marketing department of that OEM has to decide they're going to invest and lose X millions of dollars. Porsche Motorsport North America and the customer racing program is self-sufficient. You can put it on paper, it breaks even or produces a profit, and it supports the customers the best way possible. And that gives you that confidence in the longevity. You know, it all makes sense. We sell enough parts to cover the track support. We sell enough services to cover all of the overhead that we have in the shop. So all of it balances out to a real business equation.
Exactly. And the machine stuff that I saw in the shop too when we took the tour was outstanding. It's just unbelievable. And to tell you guys that if you've never been, you definitely need to go on the visit if you can. Set up an opportunity to go see these things, because it really is. It's like an operating room. It's so clean. Everything's so efficient. Everything's taken so seriously there, as it should be. But, you know, again, not to speak ill about an independent or something. We all know, like, oh, you go to an independent and you see like gas rags sitting around and like the heads are open, they're not covered. Nothing. Everything is very like surgically like taken care of properly there. It's they're in the profession of taking things seriously and motorsport seriously, and it's a specimen to see. It really is. It's hard to describe because it's just such a clean workshop. It's so beautiful, and even the wreck cars are like, you see them in there, you know that, okay, patient's in here for surgery. They have like a drape on it. Like,
it takes a lot of work, but we try and be good neighbors with the Experience Center, because obviously they're selling that experience and they're selling the show.
Yeah.
You know, and as you said, we're behind a glass wall. You can arrange tours to the Experience Center.
Yeah.
Come over to our side. Obviously, if you're a customer, you're welcome anytime. You can come over and we'll show you around.
Yeah.
You know, most of those technicians came from at least a dealership, and many of them from Andile. And it is an interesting change for them to be in this basically fishbowl environment.
Exactly, right?
So,
where people are literally, and you could speak to this, and we've been in there. There's people on the glass looking at people taking tours, or like you opening up cars and looking in those things.
Well, we always joke, we're wondering when they're going to start throwing peanuts at the glass.
Yeah, exactly, right? Or bubble gum sticking stuff on there, like, get out of here. I think another thing to touch on, like your staff, as far as the technician and the knowledge, like I give those guys a huge round of applause. Like, just the whole, like we discussed many times, the experience level, the combined years of experience that those gentlemen have that are working on those engines. I wouldn't want my stuff to go anywhere else. I can't believe it. It's, I mean, we're talking decades and decades of experience.
I'm so proud of the team and so privileged to be able to support them and the brand. You know, I mentioned Eric and I mentioned Chris, but Derek, who's here this weekend, Kevin, who's out right now getting a little wrist repair. He's a great guy, going to be back soon. We've got Dustin. Jim Levine's been there for years. He's run the shop on and off and been amazing. We've got a couple new guys. Mark has joined us. But I tell you what keeps me up at night is succession planning. I mean, hiring the next generation who's going to take over, because Alvin's still around. Eric is absorbing and knows so much of the mechanical content. Chris is picking up all the engine tuning content. But to have that next generation, you know, and to be...
It's a challenge, right? So I'll speak. I'll be the ill guy on this one. So I'm going to tell all you young guys out there, if you want to come work for them, we don't want to hear you complaining about working on a 993 RSR motor just to wash it off in the parts cleaner. That's actually a super upgrade, because back in the day, Eric can attest to this, when you wanted to get into a shop, you swept the floors, you cleaned the toilets before you got to touch anything motorsport. So I'm giving you fair warning. If you get an opportunity, you better be about it, because to get an opportunity like that is second to none. It really is, because that's the next generation that's going to carry over this motorsport, and you need to look at it more of lineage instead of a temporary job for you. Like, this is history for you to learn these things, and that knowledge and wisdom is unbelievable. And you should approach it that way, as opposed to coming in looking at like, well, I don't want to do that. I'm washing parts today. And it's like, well, don't look at it that way. You're washing a race engine, and you're getting an opportunity to look at how a race engine looks before you start assembling and rebuilding it. So there's process here to this, guys. You don't get to walk in. Like, that guy didn't accumulate 30 years at Andile doing race engines and building stuff like that overnight. He didn't walk in and say, I don't want to clean the windows on the car. That's not...
Every one of them has a different story, and every one of them started... Well, in anything technical, you always start at the bottom, because you have to start by learning. You have to start by applying your knowledge. You have to start by getting a little muscle memory of what does it feel like to do this.
Exactly. And that's a great point, because I think... And it's not even just... I think society in general, as a whole, everybody just wants instant gratification now. Like, they don't want to enjoy the journey. Because honestly, really, like, you guys should really enjoy the journey, because to learn something over time is a great thing, instead of being required to just jump in and be outstanding right away. Like, nobody can do it, especially not at the Porsche Motorsports level. If you don't have the technical knowledge and you want to walk in, there's a reason, there's a process.
And not only that, but getting to absorb the 30+ years of experience somebody else has.
Well, and we're going to overlap. We're going to overlap for 2 to 3 years, people to learn and train and gain that knowledge. And that won't be enough. But everybody that moves on is going to be available to us in consulting, as Alvin is today. Certainly when I came in there and Daniel sent me down and said, look, we need somebody who's going to be our champion with the customers. I had background that was very appropriate for that, both with SEC Enterprises and with my father. And I spent 20 years in corporate automotive, so I had a good feeling for customer service, business development. But they said, look, you're going to have to spend a few years learning who's got what knowledge, trying to figure out how we sustain that. And frankly, walking around this paddock, 2/3 of the people here I don't have the relationship with. My staff does. Maybe 3/4 of the people. So it's to my best interest to listen to them talk to our customers and kind of lay back. And just be a little bit of a fly on the wall, understand the personalities involved, understand what their needs are, understand what they enjoy about racing. So that I can talk to them about, okay, you know, you're a gentleman racer trying to get the most mileage out of a 962 and just go out and enjoy it.
Exactly.
Or wow, no, you're trying to go down to the serious level. You're trying to win these races.
Yeah. You're pushing
trying to
the
run
limit.
the car as
you're
hard as
pushing
you
the
can.
limit.
So you know what makes them tick and how you can best serve them.
And that's a great point that you make as well, because then you can almost dial in what the customer needs is from a rebuild standpoint.
Absolutely.
As far as like, look, okay, we need to have this like at 10/10 because this is where he's going to put the car.
Yeah. We haven't done it yet, but Erik and Alvin and Derek and I have all talked about it. Certainly there are going to be customers, we're going to talk to them and say, look, you have a very rare, very expensive engine. Is this car now a show and parade car, or are you going racing?
Yeah.
Because there will be the day when we're going to build an engine that's just going to run in the car.
Yeah.
You know, we haven't done it yet, but there will be a time when that's appropriate.
Exactly. Well, I mean, prime example, like one of our good friends here at Erik Motorsports, you know, he's got the freaking 904, and he keeps the engine out of it because it's such, you know, the twin cam. You don't want to grenade that just driving from your house that you're renting in Laguna Seca to the track just because the engine's so valuable. So you rebuild the engine, you keep it out of the car. It's more valuable on an engine stand. You put a 911 engine in the car, you drive it for what it is, and then if you ever want to resell the car, you put the twin cam back in, and you're like, well, that's the twin cam. It came with the car, and then it's ready to go.
Yeah, we've definitely had conversations with customers, even at some of the Cup levels. If they have, say, a 993 Cup car or a 964 Cup car, look, put your original engine on the shelf. We'll build you a runner. We'll build you something you can go out and beat on. And really enjoy yourself. You know, and it's very important to them that they protect their investment,
of course,
but get to use their car. And that's one of the things also I wanted to mention was Porsche Motorsport has committed. We showed a 962C Type 93583 engine last year at Rennsport. That engine has now been validated. We sell a basically turnkey water-cooled 962 engine with all newly manufactured parts. And that engine isn't that exciting to many Americans because the C engine wasn't as popular over here as the air-cooled and the air-water. But in Europe, it was the popular car. There were 100 962Cs. So the next
and
step,
they're special cars.
The next step is we have a contact over there, Gunter Staus. We have a good connection to everybody. I'm going over to Germany in December to sit down with several different teams. We have a conduit now to reach out and say, look, the next motorsport part we need, we have to remanufacture air-cooled 962 heads. That's what we want next. And we can go down through the process of what do we need, because Porsche has made that commitment that we will support Porsche race cars like Classic supports Porsche street cars. They will be as viable to continue to operate as the street cars are.
And we've talked about this on prior episodes with Ray, but you can relate to this from a motorsport standpoint, and I think we've talked about this offline, where when you guys need parts that aren't being produced, there's a long process to be able to get that part produced where you can actually say, okay, we're going to use this part for this car.
Business case for it.
Oh, I need heads for fill in the blank, but no one makes the heads, so we have to make the heads, and now you have to vet out the process to make sure everything's perfect before it's okay to say that we're going to use these on this car, and it's a painstaking process, correct?
It is, and it's an investment, but it's one that Porsche stands behind. And again, because our motorsports global operations are so large, there's still a business case there. Not just by having, say you could do it with exorbitant prices, but by having enough volume, you could put things out there that are tolerable. But even on the pricing side, it's interesting. I've had a few discussions with customers, never in a confrontational sense, but to say, look, you own a $5 million car or a $3 million car. It's worth $1 million if it doesn't run. What's your engine worth?
Exactly.
Is it worth a $200,000 rebuild?
Exactly.
Which rarely happens, but if we get that high,
But now it's $3 million again. So you got 1.8 back.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a great way to look at it. I mean, it's an important factor. So let's transition a little bit, background-wise. Father, big 356 guy, right? So educate us on that, even geographically. Where did that occur at? Where is that happening?
Sure.
And he's still in the business. He's still doing it. And what was that like for you growing up with that?
I had the best childhood ever. So I grew up. My father, Erik Skirmants, was a 356 racer in the 60s. He was a degreed engineer, worked for the Tank Automotive Commando in military vehicles, but started to develop his own 356 knowledge started working on customers' 356s. So in 1976, he came home, walked into the family room and said, I now work in the shop behind the house full time. I just quit my job. That was the end of that.
Hopefully I got put food on the table for you guys.
He did. Oh, he made huge sacrifices. Yeah. There's so many fun stories about how he won all the races he won. He won 90 SCCA races out of 150 he ever raced.
Wow.
He's run over 500 of the 860 races he's raced in. 500 of 860.
That's incredible.
860 races, all in 356s. But growing up in that environment, I was around the SCCA circle. Vintage racing wasn't a thing yet. We were vintage. And then as that evolved in the 90s, he had to transition because that's where his customers went. So he left the SCCA circle and went there. I was in the SCCA circle and took over a company called SCCA Enterprises later, which was supporting and building. We did 1,000 spec racers while I was there and several thousand engines. Ironically, they were dynoed, sealed, and equalized engines, just like a cup engine.
Nice.
So it was a very comparable background. But growing up, we had a Stuska water brake dyno in the backyard.
Wow.
Dad experimented with 356s. The water brake was in the middle of a garage like this, and there was no shield. So you just kind of turn towards the exit when you start running the engine. You know, it had the big old torque.
Cover the important things, right?
It's like, okay. All right.
Shield the innards and all the important stuff here.
Exactly. So, but it was the knowledge he needed. He had the flow bench, he had the dyno, and he built up his knowledge, so he knew exactly what to do to get basically 165 to 170 horsepower out of a legal 40 over Solex carbureted 356 engine.
That's impressive.
And he'll run 20 hours on a rebuild.
Wow.
So he'll only do his own engines now, but he does gearboxes for customers still. You know, in the early 70s, he founded the 356 registry with a friend from Ohio, Jerry Kaiser, and the two of them founded it. And the 356 registry was literally a log on his desk, and he wrote 356 registry on it, and he registered every 356 he found.
Oh, wow.
So I'm one of the few people who can say I spilled coffee on the 356 registry because it was an object.
That's how analog it was.
Yeah. So, but Warren, Michigan was where we were.
Okay.
My dad was born in Germany, Wiesbaden, displaced persons camp. Of he 100% Latvian.
Okay.
But he was separated from his father before birth.
Oh, wow.
Born in Germany, came over to Chicago when he was 5. He was raised by a single mom who just busted her butt, put him through college.
That's impressive.
Yeah, started at Wayne State, ended up at GMI.
Okay.
And had a great career going in engineering, but he enjoyed the Porsche side of things better.
He chased his passion. And he made it work for him.
Yeah, I mean, he used to win races on other people's cast-off tires. He used to build engines out of, not that he would take good parts from a customer, but a customer wants to get a rebuild once every year.
Yeah.
So if he got in a piston that was good for 2 more races, he'd put her in his engine and rebuild it 2 races later.
Yeah.
So a lot of his engines were out of cast-off parts. And they were the prototype, and they were ugly.
Yeah.
You'd look under his car, and everything under there was the original. And then he'd make a prettier version for the customers. So it was all about reliability and speed. And it was just a great upbringing, going around mostly the Midwest, but then, the runoffs at Road Atlanta was my childhood. Yeah. I mean, every year, that was Mecca to go down there.
That's impressive. Thank you for sharing that. That's amazing. So let's talk a little bit about also what is happening at PEC LA right now. You have a lot of events happening, right?
Yes. Big shout out for tomorrow. Tomorrow's the 3rd anniversary. And Jennifer Nicole and her team just do a brilliant job. This morning shift they've created, Jennifer really wanted to do for a long time, has become the place to be the first Saturday of every month in LA.
As it should be, because it's a beautiful facility.
It's amazing.
And it's just exciting to be there. Yeah. We've been there a handful of times, and we don't get out there enough because we're out here on the West Coast, but we love the experience centers, and it's such a great setup. It's such a great venue. And you guys are always changing the inventory around where the scenery around.
They curate the gallery really well. We try and keep up on the motorsport side. Ironically, they always tell us the most photographed cars are always on our side of the glass. We got Kerry Morris's GT1 there right now, and everybody drools on the glass.
Well, even more recently, you guys had and what I like what you're doing now is you guys are doing themes for Morning Shift, right? You guys did the GT cars for Morning Shift just not too long ago.
That got us involved because we brought out the motorsports cars that you can't usually see on that side of the gallery glass. Yeah. So we brought out all our cars. Yeah. And so that's one of the things I'd want to touch on is that Porsche Motorsport, as the sole source of these Club Sport and Cup cars and ours, we're working diligently with our business development team on maybe a bit of a traveling show to bring a portable setup to some select PCA events, some car shows, and travel around to some of the country club tracks and maybe do some events.
Nice.
So it's time to get out
exciting.
there. You know, as Germany's gotten serious about club sports and getting a pure built race car out there, we need to get the communication out more, because now we're not just selling to serious racers who they need the car, they'll figure out where to get it.
Yeah.
There are people who need a club sport, they just don't know they need it yet.
That's true.
So,
well, I mean, it's a great point. Like, we spend a lot of time hanging out here and also discussing racing for ourselves, doing historic racing or whatever type of racing anybody's getting into. And, you know, there's generations that are turning over that are listening probably to this podcast that don't know how to get into club racing. Like, I want to do it. Like, how do I go about attaining a club car? And, like, you guys are, like, the focal point for that.
Porsche has such a beautiful motorsports pyramid with the open competition classes at the top, the cup programs, challenge and trophy levels of the cup programs. And then below the pyramid is club racing, historic racing, and PCA.
Yeah.
You know, and
so there's something for everyone at any level, really.
Well, and I definitely have to mention the POC, Porsche Owners Club out on the West Coast, has a great program as well.
So, absolutely. And there's just so many interesting things happening. And, you know, off topic a little bit, I thought was really interesting is when we were there, and I had no knowledge of this, that how Porsche's turning over to, like, what is that, like a hemp-based?
Yeah.
Like
the GT4 doors are hemp.
Yeah.
And the paint actually sinks in. There's a little bit of a weave showing.
Yeah.
But, you know, on a pure race car, you know, you're going to wrap, you're going to paint, you're going to bang on.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a tool. It's not a showpiece.
Right.
It's one of those things, and it may become a thing over time.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
Just like an F40 has, you can see the carbon weave through the paint, and then there's levels of, oh my God, it's really lightly painted, so you can see a lot of the carbon weave, and that car's more valuable because of that.
I can still tell an original 356 paint job because by now the lead is settled and I can see the file marks.
Yeah.
You know,
there you go.
So everything started somewhere.
Exactly.
Fillers
and then you have that
shrank back in the day.
Keen eye for that.
Yep.
And it's now, as far as maybe you can touch on it a little bit because you're a little bit more educated about it, is that hemp-based product, is that going to work its way into everything long term, or is that just kind of a test bed? Like, can you talk about that?
I don't spend enough time with the development guys, especially on the chassis, to know for sure.
Okay.
But everything that goes through motorsport is always a precursor of something they think has production.
Okay. Potential, right?
Potential, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. Porsche would never. It's not a Porsche thing to throw a gimmick on a race car.
Exactly.
It's always a development
You heard it
tool.
here, guys, and we've been saying it for many, many episodes. Everything is derived from racing, and if they're putting it on the race cars, you may eventually see it on a road car. And all the road cars you guys are driving, you should be happy for that because all the R&D is happening out on the track.
24-hour test.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
and it's going through the harshest environments.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure it can make it to your Cars and Coffee event if you can run a 24-hour race, right?
Exactly.
That's the theory behind it.
And if you meet the FIA impact requirements, you're definitely going to meet the DOT impact requirements.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, because they're way more stringent. So, absolutely. Well, don't want to take too much more of your time. We want to thank you so much for coming on the show.
My pleasure.
Talking a little bit about motorsports and, exactly, and educating our audience, including ourselves, about what Porsche Motorsports is actually doing and the things that they can provide, because I think there's a little bit of our audience, at least, and honestly the Porsche populace, that they think they know, but they really are unsure, and I'll throw myself on the coals. Like, I'm not exactly sure. I know what you guys do. You can do racing development, you do racing stuff, but exactly to what degree does that happen, right?
Yeah, where we're allowed to play on the modern stuff is very clearly defined with the pure built race cars. What we're doing in transition when those cars become racing classics is very well defined. The club sport, again, is the newest thing for us because we're putting out there a product that's a pure race car, but anybody can get one.
Yeah, which is outstanding, which is really, really cool. So, hey, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you so much.
And we're going to chat again. This is one of many that we'll have. We're good friends, and when we come see you in LA, we'll bring you on the show again.
All right, appreciate it.
Great talk. Thanks, guys. See you next time.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of PCAR Talk. Connect with us on Instagram at PCAR Talk or online at PCARTalk.com.